Holy interviews. Batman. You're listening to Inside Your Head. Wowie zowie. Holy interviews. Fantastic.
Well, welcome to Inside Your Head. This is Nasty Neil, and I'm joined by the boy wonder and the canine crusader, Burt Ward. It's very good to have you here.
Hello, citizen.
Very good. Now, you're just talking. It's raining there, and you have a lot of big dogs in the house. So they have, but they have to go outside to use the restroom. So what's that like to have all those dogs there?
Well, for the last 25 and a half years, my wife and I have had more than 15,500 dogs live with us. At all times, we have a minimum of 50. So actually, we've gone to the dogs, literally. But our dogs are all housebroken. They're very loving. On our website at GentleGiantsDogFood.com, if you get a chance, or your listeners get a chance to go to our website, GentleGiantsDogFood.com, the first thing they'll see is a video, full-screen video of my wife and I in bed with 50 of them.
So even during quarantine, you guys are definitely not lonely.
Oh, never. We've got, it's very unfortunate about the quarantine, but, we've got at all times a minimum of what we call our canine kids.
And you never forget their names, having 50 of them?
I never can remember. My wife knows all 15,500, and she has a visual memory, she calls it, where it's amazing that she can do, and I'm lucky to remember what I had for breakfast.
Right.
But we love these dogs, and the key thing is that we've saved more than 15,500 dogs, all of which would have been put to death because they didn't have a home. And we've saved them. We cared for them. We make this very special food called Gentle Giants, and now we have dogs living up to 27 and a half years, which is just amazing. In fact, of the 50 dogs that we have here now, more than 50, probably 52 or 53, that over half of these dogs have already lived more than twice their normal lifespan. And it's because of three things: how we care for dogs and how we feed them. There's a special technique for feeding and caring. And then, of course, our Gentle Giants dog food, which is completely different from every other dog food in the world. People find that hard to believe until they try it. And it's, of course, now available in all the Target stores and Walmart stores in the U.S. So we are really, really happy that we're able to help people keep their dogs, an extra 5 or 10 years longer when they couldn't do that up until now.
Yeah, and anyone who's ever had a pet knows that's like losing a family member when you lose a pet, and to have it that extra time is invaluable.
Oh yeah, and the interesting thing is, people say to me, well, if you really can have dogs living that long, they must be like barely walking. Well, let me tell you something. Our dogs, up until they go, all right, they're running around like puppies. I've got this one 25-year-old. I've got multiple ones in their 20s, but I've got, in particular, this one dog. Her name is Bella, and she's 25 and a half years old. And our dogs can, because of doggy doors, they go in, they go out, and stuff. But it's very late at night when we're all going to go to bed. We bring everybody in. But she plays this game with me, which is catch me if you can. So I am out in the cold and sometimes in the rain, and I'm chasing after a 25-year-old dog that just can run circles around me. And she thinks it's fun. I'm not having fun chasing her out in the rain. And she does that, and of course I catch her and I bring her in and give her a big kiss. But this is now her nightly game that she does with me. And I guess it's good exercise, but who wants to run out in the mud in the rain and chasing a dog to come in? And she just has the best time, But that just can show you, and how we've done this is because we came up with a food that is different than everybody else's food. We don't take any money from this. This is our charity, so my wife and I take no salary. And we just basically put this out at our cost because we know how much people love their pets. And believe me, if you can add, like we've done, 5 to 10 years to a dog's life and sometimes more, look what you do for the pet parent. I mean, you just give them their best friend for another 5 or 10 years longer, but also with a better quality of life. They're more active, they're playing, they're healthy. And, and this is our charity. And of course, now in 2 months, we're coming out with our whole line of cat food and the reason we made our cat food, believe it or not, is because last year, 2 of our cats died. One of them was 31 years old, and the other was 32 years old. Guess what they were eating? Our dog food. Now, we had regular cat food there, because cats do need a little bit more protein, so we kept regular cat food there, but they ate our dog food. So now we went back and we've taken the formulation of our dog food and converted it to a high-energy cat food, that it's got all the special ingredients that cats need and the protein they need and the other vitamins and minerals they need. And so we've already got this now. We've been feeding it now for the last 4 months to our cats here, and they love it, and other people have been testing it. So in another 2 months, we'll have a whole line of cat food, and we're hoping that your listeners that have cats can have their cats live as long and as healthy as our cats are living.
Yeah, that's great, because I was lucky enough, my last cat I had, Faye, I had her when I was in like the 7th grade, and she lived until I was into my mid to late 30s. So I had her for over 20 years, which is very rare, but over 30 years is really amazing.
Yeah, it is. But we're seeing this with our dogs. I mean, like, for example, now not every dog lives to 27 and a half, but let's take Great Danes. We have Great Danes. Their traditional lifespan is 7 to 9 years. It's very rare to see a Great Dane that is 10 years of age. Now, our Danes are consistently living into their late teens. Our oldest Danes have lived 22, 21, and 22 years. We have like 4 or 5 of those that have lived that long. But almost all of them are living 18, 19, and this is still more than twice their normal lifespan of 7 to 9 years. And they're running around like puppies, and we love them so much. And believe me, if we can find a way to make them live even longer, we will. But we're pretty proud of what we've developed over the last 25 years, and we consider this our charity, our life's work.
Well, how did that?
Because I was robbing, I mean, I was saving Gotham City. Now I'm saving, I like to say I was the Cape Crusader, and now I am the Canine Crusader.
Exactly. A real life superhero.
Yes, and I tell you, we are encouraging people to do things, out of charity for, animal shelters and stuff like that. And even if you don't have much money, maybe you can take a blanket so that a dog that has to sleep on a cement floor can, be a little bit more comfortable on a blanket or a towel or something. If we all just pitched in a little bit, we could raise the quality of life for our pets.
Now, how did the food come about? I assume you were just, trying to come up with something to feed your own animals, and then you found out this. Like, what's the origins of your dog?
I'll tell you what happened. In August of 1994, we found out, because we had rescued a Great Dane, and we found out that the other Great Danes that were being or needing rescue, that the person who was the rescuer had actually died, and there was nobody saving them. So they were all going to shelters and being put to sleep, as gentle and loving as they are. I mean, that's why they call them gentle giants. So I said to my wife, Tracy, this is the first week in August of 1994, I said, we can't let these dogs die. I mean, we got to do something. How about just for a couple of weeks till we find somebody else to take this over? Let's take these Great Danes out of shelters. Well, she agreed, but we didn't have anybody come to us in 2 weeks to take this over. So by the end of the first month, we had more than 100 Great Danes at our house. Great Danes, the really big ones, And we had 62 puppies under 6 weeks of age, because we were rescuing litters from shelters. If a litter is born in a shelter, they usually want to get it out of the shelter just to make sure, because of so many other animals that could potentially, have some kind of an illness. They want to get them out of there as quickly as possible, puppies. So we had all of these puppies and stuff, and, it's still 25 and a half years. I'm still waiting. I'm a patient person, but 25 and a half years waiting for someone to come in and take over this rescue.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I actually tell people that I need somebody to come rescue me.
Right. Robin needs rescuing. So,
but to answer your question,
mm-hmm.
what we did, how we came up with the idea of the food is, first thing is, when the dogs we didn't adopt, if they were here and they were 8 or 9 and we lose one, oh my gosh, Tracy and I, my wife, we just sobbed. I mean, just tore us apart. So we said, look, we got to do something. We just can't let this continue. So we kind of vowed to ourselves that if we could find a way to help dogs and our Great Danes, which is what we started off with first. We were only rescuing Great Danes initially. Now we have 45 different breeds. There's only 164 breeds of dogs, and we got 45 of them here. But in any event, we first developed this feeding and care program because we watched and we saw that by the way we fed them and cared for them, it actually added years to their dog's life. And your listeners can go to gentlegiantsdogfood.com. There's a menu at the top of every page, and one of the menu items is Special Feeding and Care Program. This is how we have dogs living so long. And I tell everybody, what took my wife and I 25 years of our life to learn, you can go to our website and read and learn in less than 25 minutes. I mean, if you talk about holy productivity, right? I mean, that is incredible. And then so the dogs, the Great Danes, were living on average 3 years longer. And so our 7 to 9-year-old Great Danes were living 10 to 12 years. That by itself was an accomplishment, but we wanted more. Mm-hmm. So what happened was, back in 2005, or actually 2003, we started, and our food ended up going retail 2005, but we started making our food, and we thought if we just make the finest food, because we could afford it, let's make the finest food for our dogs, that maybe they could live another year or two. We didn't have great expectations, but what we found out was so devastating. It changed our lives forever. When we hired these 4 top nutritionists, we found out something, and what it is that dog food companies know something the average person doesn't know, which is the more fat content they put in dog food, the hungrier it makes dogs. And in my opinion, it's all about money. And so if you add a lot of fat to your dog's food, it makes them hungrier and hungrier. It actually affects their brain to make them think they're always hungry. Kind of like, if you remember about 10 years ago, the man that went into McDonald's in Ohio, he gained 55 pounds. He ate every meal there for a month. They made a movie about him called Super Size Me. Mm-hmm. This is exactly the same principle. So what happened is, because we didn't want to add we're not trying to sell more dog food. In fact, we initially just made it for ourselves. But then the people that would come to adopt a dog and they'd see a 19-year-old Great Dane there, they'd say, what are you feeding your dog? Well, it's just the food we make for ourselves. And they say, well, wait a minute. If I adopt a dog from you, I want that food. I don't want to just go out and buy regular food. I want that food. And we were like, oh, well, my gosh, we never intended to sell it. We have to comply with labeling laws, and you have to, all of this legal stuff. And we did all of that. And so the people that were initially getting the dogs from us were also getting the food. Mm-hmm. And then our veterinarian, one of our veterinarians that we use, we brought in one of the dogs we adopted, which was a 16-year-old Great Dane. And, of course, they only live 7 to 9 years. And this veterinarian, who had been doing spays and neuters for us for like 5 years, now for the first time was seeing one of our really older dogs. And, he says, I see it. I just can't believe what I'm seeing. What are you feeding this dog? So we told him, and he said, I'd like to bring this in and test it on my dogs that have had surgeries, that are recuperating, and also on some of the dogs that are boarding here. So we brought it in, and after 3 weeks, he got rid of all the other prescription foods and everything, and just brought in our dog food. Mm-hmm. And for years, he had it till he sold the business and retired. But the point is that it worked for him. It's worked for everybody. And it's our pleasure. And so what happens with the dog, why there's such a big difference, is that all the fat content that are in dogs from eating typical dog food, it actually works itself out of the dog's body in about 3 to 4 weeks. But the difference between our food and every other dog food, other dog foods put put the fat right back in the dog. So their arteries and their intestines are all clogged with fat. Ours doesn't put the fat back in. So after that month of transition, people write to us and say, I can't believe it. I think I have a different dog. This dog that didn't want to play anymore. He was 12 years old and all he does is sleep. Now he's running around wearing me out. Or my 8-year-old little dog that couldn't jump up in the bed for the last 3 years now is jumping up in the bed again, and they think this is some kind of miracle food. It's not. It's just we're not clogging their arteries and intestines with fat. We don't add any fat. It's not healthy for them. Just like you wouldn't take bacon grease and pour it down your garbage disposal, right?
Right.
Because you know, if you took bacon grease or animal fat and poured it down your garbage disposal, once it hardened, because it's not like water that evaporates, animal fat coagulates. And when it's hardened, it's like cement. So when you realize that animal fat will ruin a metal garbage disposal, why would anybody feed a dog that the food is not only has been injected with fat into the food, and then you got that greasy coating of fat on the outside? It's a double whammy of fat.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can only imagine what it's doing to the arteries and intestines of dogs, and that shortens their lives. So we didn't discover the fountain of youth. Believe me, if we did, I'd be drinking from it. But what we are doing is we're not prematurely killing dogs.
Yeah.
That's what's really happening. And we've got them living healthy, running around like puppies in their mid-20s.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's amazing. And I'm a lover of animals, all animals. Even my, I live near the forest, so I got raccoons and everything out here. But yeah, it's great. I've always had pets, and if you get extra life out of them, and like you said, the quality of life, all of that's just amazing. And that's really great work you both are doing.
Yeah, we love it, and we have a good time. And, you know, our dogs are like great friends. I mean, I have children, too, and I love my human kids. But I also love my canine kids. And I will say something for the canine kids. Out of the 15,500 canine kids we've had here, not one of them has asked me to buy them a car.
That's very good. That's definitely a bonus, I think. So recently, you got your Walk of Fame star.
Yes, on January 9th. You know, it's such a great honor. I was thrilled. To be honest with you, I've been waiting 50 years. I tell people I'm a patient person, but 50 years, don't you think that's a little bit long to wait?
Right. Did it meet the expectations of 50 years?
Oh, yes. Let me tell you, it was fantastic. Oh, we had a huge crowd. All the networks were there. It was such an honor. And let me tell you, the position of my star is such an honor. First of all, it's right in front of the Guinness Museum of World Records.
Oh, nice.
Which is, and actually, Adam West, who played Batman, I'm still waiting for confirmation. We're supposed to get, in the Guinness Book of World Records as the only 2 actors in history that worked together 50 years later.
Oh, wow.
So that's kind of unusual. And then, So anyway, it's right in front of the Guinness Museum of World Records, and the way Hollywood Boulevard works with the stars, remember, people are, of course, walking in both directions. Mm-hmm. So every other star with the celebrity's name faces one direction, and then every other star faces the other direction. So what they did, which is pure genius, is that they've got Adam and I facing each other, just like we talked to each other when we were filming the show. And they're like, I guess probably 5 feet apart, but there's mine facing his, and it's just a really cool thing, and it and the Hollywood Chamber of Commerce was just fantastic. They were just wonderful, and then right after that event, which was at 11:30 in the morning, that ran for about an hour and a half, right around the corner from the Guinness Museum of World Records is the Hollywood Museum, and my wife and I put on a special event called the Burt Ward First Annual Batusi for World Peace Day. Now, what that is this. We got people all around the world to videotape, some of them in Batman costumes, but some just dancing, the Batusi. And the whole idea was take a break from all the stress that's going on in the world and all the division, which, of course, in our country, it's just tremendous division. And let's take a break and in the thought of a better, kinder world with maybe a goal of world peace, let's just all have fun for a few minutes and dance the Batusi. Well, let me tell you, I've got footage from, I've got the most number one news show in Australia. All the TV hosts were dancing the Batusi. I've got Israeli soldiers in front of Wailing Wall, video of them dancing the Batusi. I have people from Scotland dressed as Batman and Robin in their Scottish accents dancing the Batusi and saying hello. And then, of course, all over the United States, all kinds of, from different cities, Canada. We're putting this together, and we're going to every year try to encourage more people to just take a break from the seriousness of life and have a laugh. And at this event that we put on, we had everybody there dancing the Batusi. We brought in cosplayers. We had a Batman, a Robin, a Catwoman, a Joker, a Penguin, a Riddler. We had the main characters all in costume dancing the Batusi along with, I think, 500 guests that we had. It was terrific, and that's all recorded. We're going to put it out on the internet soon. So it was a special event. And while we were there, because my wife and I, everything we do is for charity now. Our dog food, everything, rescue is all for charity. We also created a new company called Superheroes to the Rescue. Now, what this is to encourage people, as I said earlier in our interview, to go out and do something kind, for animals or for other people. Well, we gave away these awards, even though it was the day that I got an award. Because of our charitable nature, my wife and I gave away 4 awards to people that have done unbelievable things. I just want to mention one of them. There is a young man that lives in the Midwest. He's an airline pilot, okay, a private pilot. He doesn't fly for one of the major airlines, but he's got his pilot's license, a total Batman fan. And he's got his dog. He dresses up as Batman. He dresses his dog up as Robin. And they fly in his airplane to cities across the country, to animal shelters. They'll land in a city where, say, dogs are going to be about to be put to sleep, but nobody in the city can take those particular breeds for whatever reason. There's nobody willing to take them. And he'll pick up these dogs from the shelter in his airplane and fly to a different state where people are waiting to rescue those dogs. And he pays for it all by himself. He's not funded by anybody. He has a regular day job, but he spends all his money doing this kindness for animals. And boy, we gave him a great award. And it's people like that really make you think like, gosh, we've got some great people in this world. We need to really get out there and try to make it a better world for everybody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's awesome. And by the way, Dee Dee from the Hollywood Museum told me to say hello to you.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. That museum, if any of your listeners ever get a chance to go out to Hollywood, it's right there by Hollywood Boulevard. Mm-hmm. And it is just an absolute, it's 4 gigantic floors in the biggest building you can imagine. It's like a stadium or whatever. And they have every movie, every script, every costume, model mannequins with the original outfits. No matter, if you wanted to see Gone with the Wind, the costumes they wore, the scripts, the intimate stories, or whatever television show, whatever movie, they have a whole floor of Batman. 120 episodes, the scripts, not only just the original Batman, one of my costumes and one of Adam's costumes, but the villain's costumes. They have a full Batmobile inside the museum. It's just amazing. What they have, and you could spend a week in that museum and not see everything there is, from every major movie, current movies, past movies, television shows, plays. It's the entire show business gamut at that incredible Hollywood Museum.
Yeah, when you're in that area, what is it like for you to see so many people dressed up as Batman and Robin and superheroes in general?
Well, it makes me feel good that I'm not in that costume. I'll tell you, when I went for my screen test, I had an agent who the only reason he took me is because a famous producer had recommended to ask him to do it as a favor because I helped that producer get his house. My father sold him his house, and he was nice enough to send me to an agent who didn't really want to represent anybody more because he said he couldn't get work for the actors he had, but he took me because of this producer and ended up sending me out on what he didn't even know was what it was for. He just said, go tomorrow at 4:30 over to 20th Century Fox. Here's the address. And you give them your name, and they'll send you to a bungalow, and you'll meet somebody. I don't know what it's for. It's some part that you could play. Well, of course, they have these what they call cattle calls where you have tons of people. But so I did that, and I went over, and I had no idea what it was for. And I met this casting director. Now, you have to understand, even though I had studied professionally to be an actor, I had never done anything. I had never even tried out for anything. I'd never been in the studio, so all of this was new. So I met the casting director. He asked me a couple of questions, and he said, would you like to meet the executive producer? I said, sure. I figured everybody got to meet the executive producer. Well, that's not the case, but I didn't know that. So I went in, and I was introduced to William Dozier, the executive producer, and I shook his hand firmly and said, hello, sir. I was just really kind of gung-ho. And he was taken aback because he never expected somebody to be that forward, Mm-hmm. And in fact, he's got a great thing on the internet where they interviewed him. He says, this kid comes into my office. He says, the minute he came in, he shook my hand. Hello, Mr. Dozier. He says, I've never seen such energy. I instantly knew that was Robin right there. And anyway, but I mean, he didn't tell me that at the time. And yet he said to me, would you like to, have a screen test? I said, sure. I figured everybody got a screen test. Well, that's not true either. But I didn't know that. So I went for the screen test. And when I was there, I was introduced to this other actor named Adam West, who was also screen testing. And I sat down and I talked to him for about 5 minutes. And in 5 minutes, the two of us were laughing. We just got along so well. And, we both got the roles. And we laughed for the next more than 50 years. Always had a great time, always good friends. But in the scene that we screen tested, this was not a Batman and Robin scene. I was handed a piece of paper, a single sheet, and all it said on there was test at the top. And then it said Bruce with some dialogue. And it said, Dick with some dialogue. There wasn't Bruce Wayne or Dick Grayson. It was just Bruce and Dick. You would never have any idea what that was. So I did the dialogue, and they also wanted to see some martial arts because I was a brown belt in karate back in that time. It was only 6 years before that karate had come to the United States for the first time. So in any event, I did some stuff, and then I thought I was all done. I said, well, thank you very much. I started to leave. They said, wait a minute. You're not going anywhere. You need to go down to the other end of this sound stage. And there's a couple of wardrobe guys there in a dressing room. They're going to help you get dressed. I said, well, no disrespect, but I'm perfectly capable of dressing myself. I don't need any help getting dressed. Oh, you don't know. You just go on down there. You'll see. They're giving me that stuff, right? So I figured, well, all right, So I go down there. I go into this dressing room, and, these two guys are there. And I look down at this. It's like a gigantic couch. It's like 10 feet long. And I see all this stuff. And I said, am I putting some of this on? They said, no, you're putting all of it on. I said, what? So they helped me get dressed in I'm telling you, the most uncomfortable costume, the most uncomfortable thing I wore in my entire life. I could barely move. Everything hurt or itched or scratched. Everything was wrong, right? And I remember I could barely walk, but as I started to step out of this dressing room to walk all the way back in this horrible costume, I turned to these two wardrobe guys, okay, and I said to them, there is light at the end of the tunnel here. The good news is that after another 15 or 20 minutes, I'll never have to wear this thing again. Famous last words, right?
Right.
Famous last words.
Now,
So 6 weeks later, I got the role, and I didn't even know I had the role for 4 of the weeks. And I got a call to go in to sign. My agents had come in and signed contracts. They said, "Oh, great! They're going to actually represent me formally. I'm going to sign an agreement that I have an agent now. Formally have one." So I went in and I started to look at the paperwork. It didn't have the agency name on it. It said 20th Century Fox. I said, well, wait a minute. These aren't any agency contracts. They said, no, you got the series. Didn't the studio tell you? I said, no. And when the studio heard about it, they said, you mean your agents didn't tell you? Well, 4 of the 6 weeks that I'd been waiting, I didn't know that I had it, but the 2 people that did know it hadn't told me.
That's wild. And so the costume that you wore on the show, was it the same costume or was it any more comfortable?
Oh, well, I got a chance to make some modifications. For example, let's just take the mask. The mask, the way it was irritating my eyelashes. It kept hitting my eyelashes every time I open and close my eyes, which makes it hard for you to memorize your lines or talk or do anything when you're something's touching your eyelashes. So they made the openings a little larger. Plus, the material was like causing a rash on my face, so they lined it with satin to make it smooth. And the same thing with the red vest, all wool vest. Even though I had a T-shirt on, the minute they tightened up that vest, it was like poking through the T-shirt, poking my skin. So I got them to put satin on the inside of that. Then the cape was double thick bridal satin, and it was that long cape, and it just pulled my head way back. So what we figured out, I came up with, I said, well, look, could you put some snaps on the inside of the cape that snap onto my vest? I had them, in 4 places, and what that did is it took the weight, off pulling my neck back. Mm-hmm. And then there was the tights, which you couldn't really get around that. There was no way to make life easier in those tights. They pull the hair on your leg. Oh my gosh! And in 2 minutes, you have a film of water between your leg and the tights. So that was horrendous. The boots, the boots were fine. So bottom line is, I made the best of it, and I got to where I could handle it. You know what I mean? Uh-huh. But it's not the kind of thing you'd want to go out in public and walk around in. You know what I mean? It's not that comfortable.
Yeah, yeah. So how about all the props? I know they have a lot of props at the museum and stuff. Did you ever get to keep any of the props?
I only got one. Actually, like 2 things. I got a Batarang, which is absolutely fantastic, and then I got my mask. Okay, well they have multiples because of all the fight scenes, everything be torn up. But I mean, I got a really perfect mask before it was, I mean, I used it for close-ups, but not where, I was any fight scenes with it. So it's like pristine, and I have that in clear lucite. Mm-hmm. It's like a trophy, so I've got my mask. But other than that, and then I got a full costume as well. But over the years, I ended up donating that to charity. They use that as a fundraiser.
Yeah. Did you read Batman comics at all before getting the roles as Robin?
No. In fact, where I lived, there weren't any Batman comics. Mm. There were Superman comics and Superboy. And I'll tell you something. As a kid, I wanted to be Superboy. Okay? And I have photos of me, and I really believe that thoughts are things. If you really think about something long enough and hard enough, you can make it happen. Because my mother took photos of me at 3 years of age, driving around on a little tricycle, three-wheel tricycle, with a bath towel around my neck, held together with a clothespin. And that was my cape. And that's all I thought about. And, after school, even in high school, I was kind of like, a loner or whatever. I didn't have, really any. I just had one close friend that I only got to see very rarely. So I'd come home and I'd be outside just kicking a ball against the wall, running and exercise and stuff like that. And I daydream all about this. And, it's so strange, but I really believe that thoughts are things, that you can bring things about that way. And so in any event, I never knew what I was trying out for until after I got it. And even when I was in that costume, I still didn't know about Batman and Robin because I'd never seen a comic book about Batman and Robin. I knew it wasn't Superman, so I didn't know if this was some kind of Shakespearean piece or what. But the mask, they think, well, God, am I a good guy or a bad guy with this mask on?
Uh-huh. So, you're pretty young at the time when you're playing Robin, and there's so many veteran actors in the Batman series,
Right.
the villains, and Alan Napier, Alfred. What was that like? Was it ever intimidating at all? Any of the other actors on set?
No, not intimidating, but I was like the kid in the candy store, where every week I got to meet and work with somebody that either I watched on television or watched in movies, and it was just like I was awestruck. It was fantastic. I couldn't think of anything more amazing. I will tell you that there was one time when Vincent Price came on the set to play Egghead. I had seen it as a little boy, The Raven, which was really scary. So for a moment there, before I was introduced to him, I was actually a little afraid, because, you're a kid. You're affected by things, right, But he was such a nice man, and he played Egghead. And of course, it was great because the final scene was the big battle, the fight scene at Old McDonald Farm. Right? I mean, it was just wonderful. And the people the writers, the scene decorators, everybody did their part to make Batman fun. From the angles that the cameraman shot of the villains' hideouts. I didn't even understand, why are they shot at an angle? They said, Burt, you don't know? I said, no. Why is your cameraman drinking? Why can't he shoot and aim at the camera straight? He says, no, we purposely put him at an angle. I said, why? He says, because villains are crooked. So we made the camera angles crooked. I mean, and then, you have things like Villains Hideout that has a sign, you know what I mean? Hideout, right? It was all those kinds of crazy, campy things, and people just loved it. When we came on January 12th, 1966, we became, because we're twice a week with a cliffhanger, the number 1 and number 2 show in the entire world in television. Number 1 and number 2. And it just, I mean, it's so hard to describe. That women had Batman hairdos. There were kids that were putting on, bath towels and jumping off their couches onto the floor wanting to be Batman and Robin. And so many people that I met, even after the show where I'd make appearances, these adults come up to me and all of a sudden they're talking like a kid again. Oh, I got to play Robin. My brother was Batman and I always wanted to be you. And it's like, wow, it really affected people.
Mm-hmm. And it's never seemed to lose popularity or continue to gain a new audience.
Right. Well, we've got, it's in reruns all over the country. Mm-hmm. And, every generation, watches Batman. It's clean. It's wholesome. There's never any real violence or blood or anybody really hurt. Even a chair gets broken over somebody's head and they fall down and they get right up and they're fighting again.
Right.
It's like it's bigger than life and it's wholesome. And parents could feel comfortable that their kids could see all the excitement. And let me tell you, the hero worship of kids, oh my gosh, riding in the Batmobile, climbing walls, fighting heinous villains. And, for the adults and the college kids, we had some of the great dialogue. There was a scene where Batman and I are all of a sudden confronted by like these 8 villains. And I said, I turned to Batman, I said, Batman, there's 8 of them against 2 of us. Odds in our favor. Right? Because there was only 8, right? Now, if there had been 16, the odds might have been in their favor.
Right. But yeah, and it's weird because after that, I think all the Batman movies, and a lot of them are great, but they're all very dark. None of them really went back to having like a fun Batman in any of the films. Maybe the cartoons a little bit, but none of the movies.
Well, the reason they did that was because of a theater audience they perceived as teenagers going on dates and college kids and stuff. So they wanted an edgier thing. But at the same time, there's a lot of kids that go out and see, Disney movies and stuff like that are made for kids. So we like Adam used to say that he, even though that the movies had the dark night, that he was the bright night.
I like that. Yeah. Have you ever heard of this rumor that Clint Eastwood was going to play Two-Face in season 3 if it was to happen?
I had a lot of rumors. I mean, there was rumors that, for example, Frank Sinatra was very upset because he couldn't play the Joker, and he wanted to play the Joker. But Cesar Romero had been hired for the part, And of course, Cesar Romero with that mustache, which he put the white makeup over, was even more hilarious. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it definitely is. What was some of those guys like Offset, like Cesar Romero?
Well, let me tell you, these for me as a kid to work with these actors that were such pros. I mean, it was just like, it was an amazing opportunity, and they were so good at what they did. And I'll tell you something, every one of these guest stars, they had the best time. Because remember, in the typical things they did, they were limited by character. But here, they could all be bigger than life.
Yeah.
And they did. I mean, like the laugh of the Joker, the laugh of Frank Gorshin as the Riddler, the Penguin with the strut and that cigarette holder. I mean, that's hilarious stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's something. I like all the villains, honestly, but for me, Penguin was always my favorite. I even dressed up as Burgess Meredith version of Penguin for Halloween a few years ago, and was walking around Salem. I'm in Massachusetts, but what was Burgess Meredith like? Because to me, he seems like a real character, even just him himself.
Well, now with him, he was always just a really nice man. I saw him as like the consummate professional that just, you know what I mean, that knew exactly what to do. I mean, but very dedicated and kind of an intense person. And if you remember in the Rocky movies, he was Rocky's trainer, and he in person he's kind of like that.
Oh, really? It's interesting.
And a wonderful guy, but at the same time, he had a great time. And all of these guys would tell us, like, and you could just see, and the ladies too. I mean, we've got so many great actresses that were in our, Joan Collins with the Siren, Leanne Merriweather played Catwoman in the movie, and Julie Newmar played Catwoman on the show, and then there was Eartha Kitt that she got in one episode of Catwoman, and we had great actors and actresses, and it was pretty spectacular, and everybody, even the production people, were taken aback with the huge success of Batman. I mean, and everybody really got into it. Everybody really had a good time.
Yeah. Was it ever was it odd at all, like when another actor would take over a role, one of the established roles, like John Astin's playing the Riddler?
It was a little bit different, but it you know what I mean? They had a good time, and but yes, I was kind of like, but he was a great actor, and he did a wonderful job, and I had fun meeting him and everything. So for us, we're kind of flexible. We understood that as much as it is that we were into it, that it was still, it is still programming, and that it is a business, and that's why they call it show business.
Sure.
So we understood all of that, but we did have a really good time, and every actor that was on that set was fantastic, and I mean, they got the cream of the crop. In fact, so many actors wanted to be on the set, right, or wanted to be villains, and there wasn't enough villain roles. So what they did, they created that short scene of walking up the side of the building, and a window opens, and there's Sammy Davis Jr. or Jerry Lewis or any number of famous celebrities. We had Lurch, we had Colonel Klink, we had, Dick Clark, we had, oh my gosh, so many, wonderful celebrities that, then this is how we could get so many more on there. So every single show had a window scene, and it was just terrific.
Yeah. And it's only on 2 seasons in the movie, but you would think it was on forever because everyone's hot. See, kind of like The Munsters too is really only on 2 seasons, but it's an iconic TV show.
We were 3 seasons. We
were
120 episodes. Right. We had 26 episodes the first and second year each, and then the third year it was a half. So it was 100. But you see, remember we were doing 2 a week. Mm-hmm. So when you think about it,
there's a lot of episodes.
That's really like 5 years of programming for 2.5 years of 2 a week. Yeah. And then the last year we just had 1 a week. But it 120 episodes, and just think it took 6 days to make each half hour.
Wow.
6 days. And just think of 6 times 100. That's a 720 days of work.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's a lot of work. It'd be in a costume 14 hours a day, right?
What was that schedule like? I mean, you're a young man and stuff, so maybe it's not so bad, But was that a grueling schedule?
Well, let me tell you what was actually hard. Because I hadn't done anything before. You come to the set, you get in makeup, and oh my God, all this makeup on your face. Then you get into the most uncomfortable costume in the world. Then you go out into the set, and you wait, and you wait, and you wait like 45 minutes while they light a set, and this particular thing isn't right, and go fix that light, and go move that cable, and oh my God, it goes on and on and on. After 45 minutes, you work for 30 seconds. And then you wait another 45 minutes. Oh, my gosh. And I'm an active person, right? And plus, I was the youngest one on the set. I was 20 years old, going on 21. The closest person in age to me was Adam. He was 37 years of age. And then all the rest of the crew, these guys, because, the studios have the best of the best cameramen, the best lighting people. All these guys were in their 50s, and some of the women there, too. They're in their 50s and 60s. So the only one even close to my age was nearly twice my age was Adam West. So for me, it was kind of like, the other young people my age at 20 years of age and college kids and stuff like that. Because I had dropped out in my third year at UCLA. The dean was very upset at UCLA that I left. He wanted me to be a nuclear physicist because I placed in the top 3% of the country and math and science on the college level. But in any event, I wanted to do this. But nevertheless, it's different. Now, when I got out of the soundstage and made my first personal appearance, like 3 months later, that weekend, Adam West was filled Shea Stadium in New York, which is pretty big. I made an appearance up in Tacoma, Washington, at a mall that over that weekend that I was there, Saturday and Sunday, the people had actually been sleeping on the streets outside of the mall since the Wednesday before. And when I got there, over that 2-day period, they handed out 310,000 raffle tickets.
Oh, wow.
And it was gigantic. And I'll tell you kind of a funny story. I was walking along in this mall because I had to dress at one end and walk all the way to the other end. But the mall had rented the University of Washington football team. The first 11 guys, offense and defense, have 22 guys, kind of like, well, they're more like ushers than bodyguards, but really, still, to keep peace and everything. But we're walking this long, forever, to get to the other end of the mall. And it was funny because coming the other way were these 2 elderly ladies. And I don't believe that they had seen Batman or aware of the TV series, right? But they saw me in this costume, and one turned to the other and said, "Huh, damn hippie." I thought I was a hippie because of my costume, right? Just the opposite of a hippie. But in any event, and then the crowds, I couldn't even get. It took 20 minutes once I get to where I was supposed to say hello to people to actually get up onto the stage they put together. They couldn't get it. The crowds were just unbelievable. It was just a mass amount of people, just massive.
Now, have you when you were filming at the Batcave at Bronson Cave, like I think now people think of it as the Batcave, but at that time, like, did you know that like a lot of like old science fiction movies were filmed there and stuff? Like, did you have any like idea of like the history of the cave at that time?
No, I didn't, but I do have a relatively powerful memory of the event. What happened was it was my first day of filming, the very first day, right? What could possibly go wrong on your first day? I'm there at 7 a.m. in the morning, way up in top of Hollywood Hills at this cave, 7 in the morning, in makeup, in costume, and they say to me, "Burt, today we're going to film you coming out of the Batcave in the Batmobile, okay? So go into the cave, get into the Batmobile, right? And then you're going to drive out and we're going to film it." And that's basically what they said. So I go up there and I walk into this cave and with a costume on and everything. and it's dark. I can't see right away. It's hard to, and I'm trying to focus, but I finally found the Batmobile there, and I got in the car, and I looked over, and I thought it was Adam West. But you know how you can tell something is different? I mean, it didn't seem like Adam. So I said, Adam? And he said, no, my name is Hubie. I said, oh, well, why are you dressed as Batman? He says, because I'm a stuntman. This is a very dangerous stunt, and the studio doesn't want to take a chance of Adam West getting hurt. So they hired me to do this. I said, well, that's great. That's great. I certainly want Adam to get hurt. And then I'm starting to sitting there, and I'm saying to myself, I said, well, did you say this is a dangerous stunt? He said, oh, absolutely. I said, oh, well, why is it dangerous? Well, we have to come out of this cave at 55 miles an hour straight at the camera. I've got to make a very sharp turn, and it's going to skid back into the car around towards the camera. And then I got to zoom off in the direction of Gotham City. I said, oh, okay. And I said, what's it like being stuntman? He says, I love it. He says, the only problem is the more broken bones I get, the more money I get. So, we take lots of risks. Whoa, wait a minute, broken bones. And now I hear him say, okay, let's roll it up. When they roll it up, that means they're gonna close down the opening of the cave, and you know what I mean? They're getting ready to film. I said, wait a minute, there must be a mistake here, right? So the second assistant director comes over, right? And he says, Burt, what's the problem? Okay. And I said, well, this man is a stuntman. He says, yeah, we know. He says, but he's telling me this is a dangerous stunt. And he says, yes. He says, I know that. I said, why don't I have a stuntman? He said, oh, you do? I said, oh, great. Well, where is he? Oh, I think he's over having coffee with Adam West. I said, well, wait a minute. If this is a dangerous stunt and I have a stuntman, why am I sitting here in this seat and the stuntman isn't? Oh, well, we can't use him. You can't use him? Why not? Oh, he doesn't look like you. Well, why would you hire somebody to be my stuntman if he doesn't look like me? We couldn't find anybody else. And I said, besides, the camera's on your side, you have a thin little mask, and when you come by even though you're coming by at 55 miles an hour, we're still going to see a clear shot of your face. But we got to make sure everybody knows it's you. I said, okay, all right. So anyway, here we go. We come out at 55 miles an hour. The stuntman was perfect. He goes right at 55 miles an hour. At the last minute, he makes a sharp left turn, but unexpectedly, my door flies open. When my door flew open, it hit the cameraman on that little camera truck, knocked him off, knocked the camera over, knocked over a giant arc lamp. In those days, they didn't have the cool lights. They had the super hot arc lamps. This thing weighed thousands of pounds. If it had landed on somebody, it would have killed them. Okay? Mm-hmm. This thing fell over, and I was thrown towards the opening in the door, but just by, I don't know, reaction or whatever, I threw my arm behind me, and my little finger actually wrapped around the gear shift knob that Batman was using. But it pulled my finger out of joint. I mean, just like, and oh gosh, that hurts. I'd never had that happen. So when they came over, they said, "Burt, are you okay?" I said, "Yeah, but my hand is hurting." And even though I had a glove on, my finger had already swollen like twice the normal size. They said, "Oh my gosh, we got to get you to a hospital because it looks like you probably had your finger pulled out of joint." I said, "Yes, it's killing me." They said, "Okay, great. Come on out." I said, "Okay." I got out of the car. They helped me out. I said, "Well, where's the car?" And they said, "What car?" "Well, the one to take me to the hospital." "Oh, you can't leave now. We haven't gotten the shot." I said, but my hand. They said, no. We've got a whole crew of men here. We've got 80 guys on the crew. It costs us like $30,000 a minute. You've got to stay. At 12 noon, I left for the hospital. Okay? And that was the first of 4 days in a row that I was in the emergency hospital, from second-degree burns to a 2x4 landing on my nose, breaking my nose. I'm telling you, I didn't think I was going to survive the first week. But I'll tell you, the studio was very smart. The studio said, "Burt, we're going to take care of this. Don't you worry about it." I said, "Oh, great." I said, "Well, what are you going to do to take care of it?" They said, "We just took out a $30 million life insurance policy on you." I said, "Oh, well, that's comforting."
Right.
And I'll tell you something. By the end of the third season, I think they were trying to collect on that policy. I'm telling you.
Uh-huh. Well, I'm glad they didn't. I'm glad you're here.
No, I'm glad they didn't either.
Yeah. So I got a lot of questions here on social media when I mentioned you're going to come on. Let's see. Brian Clutter wants to know, did you ever forgive Conan O'Brien for trying to steal the Robin costume?
You know, that is such a funny thing. I was voted Man of the Year at Harvard University, even though I didn't go there. I went to UCLA in 1984, okay? And I went to Harvard University, and I was giving a speech, and I had my costume because I didn't want to wear it. I wanted to be able to talk and answer questions because this was, that's for the students. And all of a sudden, these two guys come running up, and they say, we've had a report. This costume is in potential danger. We're going to keep it backstage here. And I thought it was the people there, it was the real thing. And then, of course, when it turned out that it wasn't, okay, I actually got mad because that costume was worth $500,000. I mean, that was serious money. That costume.
Yeah.
I mean, because that was the costume from the show, one of the ones that we filmed in, right? And they gave it back. And it was so funny because years later, I was 1996, because that was 1984. And then it was 12 years later that I went on Conan's show because I was promoting a book that I had written called Boy Wonder My Life in Tights. And we both had a laugh about that. But no, I mean, it was a little upsetting at the time because I thought it really was stolen. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah,
but,
of course.
No, I got it back, and it was in perfect condition. But that just shows you Conan he's got a real great sense of humor, a very, very funny man, very talented man.
Yeah, I was a big fan of Conan. Was that fun to go on Conan's show? I remember the time you being on there.
Oh yeah, it was fun, and he's a very funny man, so he asked some pretty funny questions, but he got some pretty funny answers back. Yeah. So he was really, you know what I mean? He was kind of surprised by it, but it turned out great, and people loved it, and you can see it on the internet. So It was fun, and my original screen test is on the internet. Interviews with the other cast members, and with the executive producer William Dozier's on the internet. It's amazing. The internet is like it's got like the biggest hard drive in the world.
Exactly. Yeah, it's nice.
It all of these wonderful things in perpetuity that you can go back and watch from years ago.
Yeah, it is really amazing. I know, especially right now, everyone's stuck. Not necessarily inside, but around their house, and you have the internet here, and there's so many. If this would have been 20 years ago or 30 years ago, it would be a much more boring time.
It would be very, very hard on people. I agree with you.
So the book is like really hard to get. Like it goes for a lot of money if you can find an old copy, like on Amazon or something. Have you ever thought of writing a new book and having it updated with over the last decade or so?
If I get a chance to do it, but my wife Tracy has got me doing so many things with these events and this charity and that charity. I know it may sound kind of strange, but I actually work 7 days a week. 7 days a week. And of course I tell everybody the first 100 years are the hardest. After that, it's pretty smooth sailing, right? But those first 100 years. So I would love to do that. I would love to have peace and quiet. I'd love to have a day off. Okay. But my wife is she's a taskmaster. We got to do this, we got to do that. And she has so much energy. And I used to think that I had like incredible amounts of energy compared to the average person. But she out-energizes me. I mean, she has so many things she wants to do, and I sit there and listen, and I actually get exhausted just listening to all the things that she wants to do. It never stops. It's just, and it's so funny because, because people, when I was growing up, say, "Oh, Burt, you have so much energy. You just wear all of us out just with all your ideas, and you want to go do this." And I love sports. Besides being a black belt in karate, I love to play tennis and golf, and I did all these things, that I just had the most wonderful life. I'm so fortunate, and now I see what they mean when they say you can wear somebody out by just the energy you have. And I watch my wife got so much energy. I mean, I have energy, and I work 7 days a week, but she could just go 24 hours a day. and it's like I'm human. I have to sleep a little bit,
Yeah, totally understand. Several people asked this. Robbie was the first one, so I'll mention him. What was
Sure.
it like? What was it like starring on Crisis on Infinite Earths for CW Network?
Well, that was so much fun. I'll tell you, I was surprised. I got an offer to be on the Supergirl episode. They actually ended up, from what I heard, they used it on all 5 because all 5 of the shows that they have on that CW network were going through the Crisis thing. So they used it. And what they did is they used my little segment cameo role right in front of the main titles, which was really cool because everybody got to see it.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody was so nice. And I went up there to film, and people were saying like, "Oh, you're a legend. You're an icon." And I said, that sounds very prehistoric. I'm from the same century. I'm not from another century here, But it was a lot of fun. Everybody's so nice, and it was just great. And here's the interesting thing, I had forgotten because, again, I told you I hadn't read the comic books. Later on, I went through some of the Batman comic books because DC Entertainment asked me to do some stuff for them that I needed to know that stuff. But I get up there, and they said, "Oh, we've got a German Shepherd. We have this dog for you to be walking. You're going to be walking this dog." And I thought, well, gee, maybe because I operate the largest giant breed dog rescue in the world, they figured I'd be good with dogs, so they have this dog. And of course, I'm an expert handler, but then I found out from one of the people on the set, they said, "Oh, no, this is all part of the comic book." I said, "Well, what do you mean?" And they said, "Don't you remember there was the famous bat dog named Ace the bat dog?" And that's right. I said, "Oh my God, how I forgot." And Ace the bat dog was a German Shepherd. So, I mean, these people that are doing the show, they are meticulous about detail. They are so meticulous, and it was just a great thing. It was just, and so I'm not sure how many people, you know what I mean, fully understood it. But that they were very exacting,
Yeah,
and
cool.
I had a great time. Vancouver's a great place. The people are great, and I've always gotten along with DC, which is the division of Warner Brothers, DC Comics, and they're very, very. I always got along, and everybody's been so nice to me, and I've just, and vice versa, had a good time with them. So it was great. And of course, I did the 2 movies for Warner Brothers, 2 full-length animated features that came out a couple of years ago. Batman: Return of the Caped Crusaders, and then Batman, versus Two-Face. I did the voice of Robin. Adam West did the voice of Batman, and in the case of Batman versus Two-Face, William Shatner did the voice of Two-Face. So here you have the actors from the 2 most iconic television shows in history, Batman and Star Trek, working together. I thought that was the greatest casting, and William Shatner is fantastic. He is very, very nice to me, and he was a great guy, and he's very funny. And I'm telling you, this man is, you talk about quick and on his feet. It's like a razor. He's so sharp. He thinks very quickly. Really great experience working with him.
Yeah, he seems similar to Adam West with a similar dry sense of humor, I would think. Michael McCurdy wants to know, do you have a favorite celebrity cameo appearance on Batman?
Oh, geez. Every one of these, cameo appearances. I mean, meeting Sammy Davis Jr., Jerry Lewis, Lurch. There were so many of them. Betty White, Don Ho, the famous Hawaiian singer that used to sing the song Tiny Bubbles. I just had so much fun. I think meeting the most fun I had, I think, was meeting and working with the stars that were on the show for the 6 days that we made the 2 half, the half hours. And that to me was the most fun because I got to know them and got to be able to, remember I told you, it's like you sit around for 45 minutes while they light, and then you work for 30 seconds, or maybe if you really have a lot of work, you work for a minute, right?
Right.
But then the rest of the time, I got the chance to talk to these people. And wow, I mean, just like so brilliant in their experiences. And another thing I had a really great time with, most people would never think, is I always enjoyed talking to the stuntmen. Let me tell you, they could tell you stories of stunts and things that went wrong, that, some of the most fascinating, horrible things. But it would just capture your attention. I could listen to these stunt guys all day long. And I remember they told me a story how one of them had to come out of it was a Western thing. And they have this thing where they get knocked out of the second floor and they fall on their back like they've been shot, right? And they fall into a mattress that is off the camera, right? And they tell the story how the guy, and this is the guy that did it, he said that, he got the mattress, everything right. He'd already done a test fall, and now he's going back up to film. And an associate producer comes on the set and says, wait a minute, that mattress is too far out. We got to push that mattress closer to the building. The guy doesn't know anything because your body actually carries you. You understand?
Right.
And this guy had them push it to the building. The guy came out and landed on his back, and it broke his back.
Oh, wow.
Okay. And so for 3 years, when he healed, he couldn't stand up straight. And then he did another movie where he was on one of these ships, these giant sailboats, and he's like a pirate, and he gets knocked off way up high, and he's supposed to fall into the ocean, and they timed it wrong, and he fell onto the deck of the boat, broke his back again, but this time when he healed, he could walk straight again.
It broke it back into place. Yeah.
That's right. I mean, and it's, and here I am, like, a kid, and I hear him in this costume, and I tell you, the whole thing was just like, I don't know. It's like from a different world.
Yeah, that's crazy. Jerry wants to know, what was the scene like with the tigers and having raw meat being thrown at you?
Well, it wasn't thrown at me. What happened was this. There's a Catwoman scene, and there's the thing where I'm on a plank with my head over the end of the plank, my arms tied at my side, and I'm above 3 live Bengal tigers. Okay, these were not trained tigers. These were wild tigers, and they have handlers. Okay, but they and they're very careful how they do it so they don't get killed. But so just imagine, I was on this plank 12 feet above the tigers. As I found out later, they could jump 15 to 18 feet. They could easily have gotten me. Okay, and then the camera crew was 10 feet above me in a steel cage, fully protected. And I'm down there right over these tigers. So the director said, okay, camera action. And the tigers were just kind of milling around. It's cut. We got to do something more about this. So see if you can get the tigers to look up. So what they did is the handlers, I mean, they don't handle them like you walk a dog. I mean, believe me, they're like with these long poles and stuff. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Because they easily get killed. These are wild tigers. They're not, friendly. Anyway, so they started tapping around me, and the tigers were looking up at me. And this director, safely in his steel cage, says, well, that's really not enough. Can't you do something more? So they to keep them calm, they constantly are feeding them. You know what I mean? So they're not hungry, right? Mm-hmm. So they hung meat above my head to get the tigers to jump up to try to get the meat. And my God, when a tiger jumps directly at you, it's like, man, I'm pulling against my bonds, but I'm tied down. And afterwards, everybody said, oh, Burt, that was the most realistic acting I've ever seen. I said, acting? What? You're crazy. I'm trying. I could get killed. Those paws. I mean, they're the size of a baseball mitt. But that's the kind of thing that happened on Batman, and that's why I had many visits to the emergency hospital. I got to be friendly with the various doctors on duty at the emergency hospital because I was there so often. Uh-huh. I'd come in, burns, this, that. Oh, back again, Burt. What's it today? Oh, my goodness.
Billy Pawn wants to know, what are your memories of Bruce Lee during the Green Hornet crossover?
Well, here's a piece of trivia, several pieces of trivia. Number one, Bruce Lee's first filmed fight scene of his entire cinematic career. And of course, he became the most famous cinema martial artist in the world by far. Okay, his first filmed fight scene of his career was fighting me on Batman.
Oh wow!
And a lot of people say, "Oh, weren't you scared of Bruce Lee?" I said, "No. Actually, Bruce and I lived in the same complex of condominiums, and we were friends, and we used to spar together. That's where it's like fighting, but you pull the punches. And we used to go down to Chinatown to have dinner. And I remember with his wife Linda, and at the time his son Brandon was 6 months of age, and we went down to Chinatown one time and had, because Bruce had lived in Hong Kong for 10 years, so he knew all the most authentic foods that weren't even on the menu. And it was fantastic. But we were friends, and unbelievable. He trained 8 hours a day, every single day, 8 hours a day. The guy was in incredible shape.
Jeff Burr wants to know who your favorite director on the Batman series was.
We had some great directors and great writers. My favorite director was the gentleman that directed the pilot. Okay, his name was Bob, and he was an amazing director. And the reason why I liked him so much is that on the pilot, instead of shooting, remember I told you it took 6 days to make each half hour. Well, they spent a lot more time on that. We actually spent 3 weeks, and so the director's name was I called him Bob, but his name was Robert Butler. Fantastic director, but he was so artistic. The way he would, you cross and do this, and when Commissioner Gordon does this, you do that, and I mean it was like a ballet. I mean it was just beautifully staged, and it was really terrific. In fact, one of my favorite lines on Batman that occurred when that he was directing were Batman, and we were talking to the Commissioner Gordon and Stafford Rep, and Commissioner Gordon says, any one of these villains could wreak havoc on Gotham City. This is for the Batman movie, okay? And he did part of it, and then there was another director, Leslie Martinson, Leslie Martinson that directed the main part of the movie, but he did this one scene. Anyway, so Commissioner Gordon says to Batman, any one of these heinous villains could wreak havoc on Gotham City. But imagine the four of them, the Riddler, the Penguin, the Catwoman, the Joker, Batman. What do you think they have in mind? And Batman, Adam very stoically says, I think their minimum objective is the entire world. Right? That's their minimum objective, right? And, it was that kind of craziness, and we had so much, and Adam was so great. Oh my God. He was, and people would say to me, well, he's so kind of rigid and stilted and this and this and that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What's he like in person? And I say, he's exactly the same. Although when he laughs, all of a sudden he's like a kid laughs and this and that. But then he likes to think of himself in a very grand way. You know what I mean? Like, like a prime minister, or I mean, he did, and it's like, I remember he told me one time, he said, Burt, he said, here in the 60s, you have the 3 Bs. I said, what's the 3 Bs? Well, Batman, the Beatles, and Bond, right? And so, I mean, he thought it was very grand, and then he came to me one time and said, I was watching the 10 Commandments last night, and I really got to understand how deeply important Batman is after watching the 10 Commandments. I said, oh, okay, well, how do you figure? He said, when I watched Charlton Heston as Moses parting the Red Sea, he said, then I really understood the power that someone has to reaching people all around the world. And I'm going like, oh my God. Oh. And he thought of himself in those grand far bigger than anything. You know what I mean? And it was hilarious. But he was such a nice guy. And the more stilted, and I don't mean in a negative way, but just kind of a stoic. We're kind of this, it's like, yes, Robin, And I'm like, yeah, Batman, but this and this and that and that and this. The more slower he got, the more faster I got. Do you understand?
Yeah.
I was the exact opposite of everything he did. And it just made for this chemistry. I'm telling you, from the first time we worked together, we would, even out in public on weekends, sometimes we'd play tennis. And people would look at us, one and the others, oh my God, it's Batman and Robin playing tennis. And people, or if we just stood next to each other without even saying anything, people would start laughing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know exactly why, but there was this perception of our character because he's just so grand and so stoic. And I'm like this never grew up kid, eternally. A 16-year-old type of thing. You know what I mean? In the series, I was 15 and a half.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, it's like the contrast of the characters. It totally works. You like you said, the very stoic, dry sense of humor, and then the very hectic, exuberance of Robin.
Right. Well, in history, though, the greatest comic duos have always had, extreme contrast. Laurel and Hardy, one very heavy set and one very skinny. Abbott
Costello,
even Abbott and Costello, or Johnny Carson and Ed McMahon.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there are contrasts. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And so with Adam and I, there was this tremendous contrast, but at the same time, we were two people that just had the best time together. Honestly, we could sit and talk about any subject, and the two of us start laughing. Just no matter what it was. And I don't know exactly why we laughed, but we had the best time. Now, when we were laughing on the set, that did not go over well, especially
right.
with directors.
Yeah.
I mean, and you have to understand, here you're in the most uncomfortable costume. He's in his, and I'm in mine, and you've got these hot arc lamps. I'm telling you, it's like you could get a suntan under them. They're so hot. And here you're working all day in the hot light, and you start to get, like a little dizzy in the late afternoon. You know what I mean? And if something happened that made us laugh, the two of us could not stop laughing. I remember one director said to me, "You two guys are going to laugh me out of the business." You couldn't help it,
right?
Because he would look at me, and we'd have to look at each other. And when I look at him, I start laughing because he's cross-eyed in his mask. In his mask. He looked at me and said, "You look like a raccoon."
Right. And this is pre-digital. Film itself costs a lot of money.
Oh my God! It's like $30,000 a minute or some ridiculous thing. It was incredibly expensive.
Yeah.
There were millions of dollars worth of making the show, tens of millions of dollars.
Mm-hmm. So what would you say, like, because you said worldwide, what would you say is like some of the experiences, in other countries that really stand out to you, making appearances?
Well, I really haven't made appearances anywhere other than Canada.
Oh, really?
I've been offered to go there, but like for example, I have a standing offer if I want to fly 19 hours to Australia.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I probably wouldn't want
to. Trying to do autographs and fly 19 hours back. It's not exactly. But what my wife actually has come up with, there's a new technology that we're doing. Virtual appearances.
Oh, yeah.
Where for all intents and purposes, I'm there. And the way it works, it's like having a big 85-inch screen that there is this little device that goes on the screen that I have my machine at home, and people can talk to me. I can answer questions just like we're talking now, instantaneous. There's no delay or lag or anything. And where I can sign an autograph for them, okay, and they get the autograph picture on their end because we have somebody there with the real autograph pictures I signed. But the thing I signed with actually uses a Sharpie, which is what I use, and it precisely matches my signature. Even if I added the words like, hi Dave or hi Betty or whatever, it would write that out as I'm writing it out.
That's pretty
and
wild.
What makes it even better than, in some cases, a real appearance is because at my real appearances, people got the autographs, and they did get to shake my hand, but then, they would leave, and their only souvenir was the memory and the actual autograph photo. But now they can leave, and they actually have a video of the appearance because their picture shows up on their own screen with my pictures full size, and then in the corners their picture. So here they leave with something they can take home and they can show their family. They can put out on the internet. And I met Burt Ward.
That's pretty amazing.
I asked him this question, and he said that. I mean, it's like a personal video, which really makes it every bit as special as actually being there.
Yeah. I when you first started saying about the virtual thing, I got it, but then I didn't know like all that other things, like you could sign something, and that totally makes sense. And then keeping the video, that's a pretty awesome experience, and especially right now,
right.
It's very useful.
Yeah, because they get the autograph picture with the real signature on it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And they get I get a chance to talk to them, and they get a video that is like a permanent visual memory that, they can see at home. They can put it on a disc, whatever they like.
Yeah. For like fan art or anything like someone has made, like, Batman related, I assume people make stuff and give to you over the years. Anything stand out like that?
Yeah, I have some great gifts from people. There's some people that made some wonderful Shakespeare heads that you actually bend the head back and turn on the light. And, it looks just like the one we had on Batman.
Oh,
there's
nice.
bat phones. There's other things that are really cool. Somebody, in fact, I've got a picture here that somebody gave me. They painted, and it's Robin holding Scooby-Doo.
Uh-huh.
That was taken from the old Hanna-Barbera Scooby-Doo, where Batman and Robin met Scooby-Doo, but he gave it to me because he knew that I rescued Great Danes, and Scooby-Doo was a Great Dane.
Yeah,
so
there's a great connection there. Yeah,
hanging up on my wall from a fan that painted that, which is really a great memento.
Yeah, definitely. That's amazing. So again, I want to let everyone know, and I'll have the website up on our website, gentlegiantsdogfood.com, and you go there and learn about your great dog food, and now it's at Walmart and Target, so it's available for everybody. And it's been great to talk with you.
Well, thank you. And by the way, this month we have kind of a special because we just brought our dog food into Target stores. So anyone that goes in and gets picks up a bag of Gentle Giant's dog food, the large bags of we have a chicken and we have a beef with bacon, any of those, and they can email, because it's right on our website, my email address, a copy of their receipt and take a picture with their cell phone. I'm sending every one of those people a personalized autograph photo from the series that I had actually written the detail of this particular scene that it was from, plus personalized to them. It's like when I go to these Comic Cons, these arenas, they charge like $100, and your listeners can get it absolutely free just for this month of April by putting, picking up a bag at Target. And it's kind of a kickoff for Target bringing our dog food into their stores all across the country.
Yeah. I love
it's fun for me as long as my hand doesn't fall off, right?
Sure, exactly. Yeah. And Burt, you're a really great guy, and I really appreciate that. Firstly, you came on, and also that you seem, you love your time with Batman, and you seem to love the people, and you love your animals. You seem like a really genuinely very nice good man.
Well, thank you. That's very kind. And I'm very happy. And I have a wonderful life, and I have wonderful family, and the people that I've met, so many wonderful people, and a lot of them are fans that grew up watching Batman, and it just, it's touching because, we're all on this planet for such a short period of time. And, I every day I try to make, the best I can with my life and try to bring happiness to other people's lives. And it's very rewarding, and I'm very happy. My wife is an incredibly wonderful person. As I told you, she's totally into charity. And, it's just, there's one of our dogs talking. That's that 25-year-old I was telling you about earlier. Yeah. She wants me to go outside and chase her in the rain. It's raining out now, and she thinks it's going to play that game with me, and I'm not going out in the rain and chase her right now. So, but in any event, I'm very happy, and I love the people that grew up watching Batman because it meant a lot to so many people, millions of people all over the world. And Batman was in 140 countries. So it's, it's pretty spectacular. I'm very fortunate, and, I care about our fans. And and I care about, obviously, animals. And so I invite your listeners, if you want your dog to have a chance to live to 27 and a half years, go get some Gentle Giants dog food at Walmart or Target or online, walmart.com, chewy.com. And, this is it's a great thing for your animal, and we're here trying to make a better world for all of us.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate this.
Well, thank you, citizens. What shall I say? To the Batmobile!
Hi, this is Anita Pointer of the Pointer Sisters, and you're listening to Neil Jones in